Guys, it's me, it's Queen Said Haru. And I have another exciting edition of Ask an Aquarius for you today. So, listen, someone asked me about the Sagittarius and the Aquarius, which was interesting to me because I'm an Aquarius with a Sagittarius moon and a Aquarius rising. So, I'm the combination of Sagittarius and Aquarius. So, this combination is very compatible. This is a great combination, as a matter of fact. Um, the Aquarius and the Sagittarius can be a very powerful relationship. It can be a great relationship because this is the thing about it. The Sagittarius is a fire sign. The Aquarius is an air sign. Air and fire go very well together. Those two elements do very well together. You can get a blazing inferno from air and fire together. So these two go really good. The good things that I noticed about them is the Sagittarius is a very free spirit. Sagittarius is very intelligent. They like to read philosophy. They like to travel. They like to learn about different cultures. And the Aquarius likes those kinds of things too. The Aquarius likes anything to do with the intellect. So these two will have great conversations. They will travel places. They will have fun together. And another thing, they will not crowd each other. Aquarius needs space, Sagittarius needs space. So these two will understand intuitively when the other needs space, and they won't be offended by it because they'll understand that they need space too. So this particular couple can be a really powerful couple. It just depends really on the Sag because the Aquarius is very romantic and very loving. And the Sag is sometimes not. It depends on, other things going on in their chart. But if you have a loving, romantic Sag, these two will go very well together. It just depends on that energy. The Sagittarius and Aquarius that I've seen, and I've dated a Sag or two, and those relationships weren't bad. What happened with my Sag is that one of them that I'm thinking about in particular is that we had that kind of together but not together kind of thing going on. As a matter of fact, this is when I still was dating men. And he was in another country and I was in the States. So we would see each other, we would come together. It was okay at first, but over time it fizzles out. It just fizzled out because, like I said, we're not crowding each other. So while we're spending, in this case, we were spending too much time away from each other. It's okay to spend some time away from each other, but we were spending a lot of time away from each other. We saw each other like every 3 months, and it just wasn't enough to solidify the relationship. Now, if you're seeing somebody and y'all see each other a few times a week, and you're a Sag and Aquarius, that could be okay. If you're in the same country, get together once or twice, maybe 3 times a week, that could be wonderful. But if the distance is too much, Sagittarius spins off and Aquarius does too. Aquarius really likes to have a companion. They like space from their companion, but they do like to have a companion. So if these two come together and it's not frequently enough, it fizzles out. But it really wasn't any bad blood. When we fizzled out, I was fine. I had already gotten used to not being around them anyway. So when it was gone, it was just gone. I just moved on. But we just fizzled out. It was like we just went our separate ways. We just started calling each other less and less and less. And before I knew it, we weren't calling each other at all. We had both moved on. So that's the only thing that you have to worry about with the Aquarius and Sagittarius relationship is that these two could spend too much time apart, But they're both very free-spirited and a lot of fun. I remember going to parties and places with him. He was always so much fun. So we always had a good time together. We always laughed together. When we were together, we were tight. But when we weren't together, we were just, like I said, so distant, and it was just too much distance. So an Aquarius and a Sag can make it. They can make it in a married couple. They can make it in any kind of open relationship if they want to. Whatever they want, kind of relationship they want to do, an Aquarius and a Sagittarius can make it. So if you are Aquarius and you're talking to a Sag, that's the issue that you need to be concerned about, is how distant is the distance. And other than that, it should go pretty well. Another thing about Sagittarius is Sagittarius aren't always the most faithful. They really do better in open relationships. That's one of the things that I have noticed about them. They're not to say that they're all cheaters. I know a lot of Sagittarius who are married and have been married forever, and I assume, are faithful. I'm not sure, but I assume are faithful. But I think that many of them do better in open relationships. They do better when it's not a monogamous relationship. There are a lot of famous Sages who were famous for cheating. That's what they were famous for. So Sagittarius have a tendency not to be faithful to one person. So if you're in a relationship with a Sag, y'all need to discuss monogamy and be open about it. Is this what we want to do? Do we want an open relationship? Because open relationships have their own problems. So you have to decide with them what kind of relationship you want to have. Never take it for granted that you're in a monogamous relationship with a Sagittarius unless that's what the two of you have agreed on. I was watching a movie the other night, and the woman's husband was a Sagittarius, and he loved his wife fiercely, but could not keep it in his pants. I mean, and it was weird because it was like, he even said, every time it happened, it meant nothing, it meant nothing. And it's like, so why does it keep happening? It definitely means something. It's because they like to be free. They like that freedom of an open relationship. So you have to make a decision about that, or you may end up in a position where you're being cheated on, because they will cheat. They're usually honest about it, though. The weird thing about the movie was every time he cheated, she confronted him and he admitted it. He never once said, he never lied about it. He admitted it. So a lot of times, sometimes they will admit it, sometimes they won't. But the bottom line is that that's something that y'all need to come to terms with immediately. Now, a Sagittarius, but depending on what's going on in their chart, they may be able to be faithful. They may want a monogamous relationship. They might have a Capricorn moon or a Taurus moon or something like that that's leading them more towards a more traditional type of relationship. And that's fine. But that's something that you really have to discuss with them. I personally think that you should discuss that up front. I think that when you get with anybody from any sun sign, I never think that monogamy should be implied or taken for granted. I think monogamy is something that y'all need to talk about and say, yes, this is what I want. I think a lot of people end up in relationships where there's infidelity because that doesn't happen. Every time I have a relationship over the past 5 years, one of the first conversations I have with the person before we even get together is, what type of relationships do you like to have? Monogamous, open, poly, what are you into? That needs to be a conversation, and especially when it comes to the Sagittarius. And if they say, oh, I'm into this and you're not into that, then move on to another person. Don't sit there and try to change them. I've seen a lot of people get in trouble with that. The person will say, well, I'm poly. And I'm like, well, I'm monogamous. Well, they're both hoping that the other one will change their mind. And then when it doesn't happen, it's a nasty situation. So don't ever go into it like that. Go into it with the understanding of what kind of relationship the both of you want to have. And be honest about it. If you are not a monogamous person, tell them up front, I'm not a monogamous person. And if you cannot deal with that, then you and I do not need to be together. And on the flip, me personally, I am a monogamous person. I don't like sharing my lovers. Now, some Aquarius are fine with that. I've come across, and I've even myself had different types of relationships to test them out, and they're okay. But at the end, I decided that I'm somebody who really enjoys monogamy. So that's what I need to go for. When I'm dating someone or talking to somebody, even before we start dating, we need to have that conversation. And that's the biggest thing, like I said, when it comes to Sagittarius. Have the conversation. And if they don't want what you want, move on. Be their friend and just move on. Don't ever think that you're going to change them. And they might change, but don't ever think you can change another person. I don't care what's going on with them. If you can't accept them as they are, move on. If they're poly, if they're monogamous. I don't care what it is. If they're in a club you don't particularly care for, I don't care what the person is into. If they are into the Marvel universe and your team DC, whatever. If they're into something that you cannot live with, do not assume it will change. I have made that mistake in relationships time and time again. And sometimes it did change, but a lot of times it did not. So I ended up in a situation that I didn't want to be in, that I knew I didn't want to be in the first place, because I was thinking that it was going to change. Don't ever try to change a person. Let them be who they are and you be who you are. If they want to change for you, they'll switch it up and come find you. You have to have enough self-esteem and enough self-love to be able to do that. Okay? So remember what I said, Aquarius. That's the deal with Sag. And Sag, Aquarius is not the one. They're not the one. You don't want to do things to an Aquarius that will piss them off. Aquarius are better off not angry. It's just like the Incredible Hulk. Nobody's going to like them when they're angry. So don't do that to them. If you know you feel a certain kind of way, be honest with them. Sagittarius, always be honest with your Aquarius. That's the best way to deal with it. And again, if they want to do something that you don't want to do, that's fine. Move on. There's always somebody willing to do what you want to do. Trust me. So that's this edition of Ask an Aquarius. Deuces.